this is kind of leading up to me escaping the relationship. Like he already took everything anyway. Like either you're gonna make a run for it now, or you just whatever. What are you gonna do? So things turn rapidly. We go to work, and like the whole time I'm like nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Like he's gonna pop up at some point. I don't know where he's at. Like I said, he knew where I was, and at the time I had a feeling, but I didn't really know for sure. I was in my room and in the basement. They removed all of my belongings from the house. He kept my cards. He kept my stuff. So he was still taking my money even after the fact. My phone got cut off because I couldn't pay the bill. And it got to the point where I literally was homeless. I was hungry. I didn't have money to buy food. I didn't have money to buy personal things I need. Like he was taking everything that I had. Guess what? The enemy already has gone ahead and he's already made plans at this place. I don't know. I'm young and dumb. Fell into another trap. So went from one bad situation to the next. Okay, it was crazy. The co-worker's mother happens to know the guy who I left. And now this is when I start to find out how serious this situation really was. I knew it was serious and I knew it was dangerous and I knew he was dangerous because of some things that I had seen and heard while I was around. That's what really gave me the fear of like not wanting to run away because I knew what had happened to some other people and what could have possibly happened to me. Now I meet this woman and she says, "You were with him and he let you get away?" He took this big old key ring, and I kid you not, it had like probably 30 or 40 keychains on it. It was like this big, and he threw it and busted my mouth. And I even still have a little cut right here where it cut me right here, and it busted my lip, busted my mouth, and all of that stuff. A lot of us have dealt with a lot of trauma, and sometimes you feel like you're not good enough. Sometimes you feel like nobody loves you. Sometimes you feel like nobody cares. But I'm here to tell you that God cares. And when I say people say that and it sounds cliche, but it's so true. He knows where you are. He hears you and he can deliver you just like he delivered me. Hello, loves, and welcome back to my channel. If you are returning to hear the rest of the story, thank you so much for coming back. Sorry, the story is so long. I can't tell a story without just telling all the details. I need a visual, okay? So I'm going to try to give a visual, even though I know that this one is kind of a hard one for some people because it is about domestic violence. So I apologize for that. But I am in a different setting again, as you can see, and looking tired, okay? Because I'm at work. But I'm going to go ahead and try to get into this, get some of this done. I don't know, again, if I'll be able to finish because of the fact that I am running low on time. I was trying to at least give an hour to record this video and try to get it done. But the way that time went so quickly, I don't even know if I have an hour. So I might have to, do the breaking it up and adding it together again. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and get into it. So left off with, he took me to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, he dropped me off, of course, because he wasn't going to go in there with me because then, it would obviously look like it was him and they could have, gotten him or whatever and arrested him. And like I said, before he took me, he said, you better not tell them what actually happened. I think he said, tell them that you got into a fight with another girl or tell them that you fell or something that just obviously was not the case. And so I went to the hospital, went in by myself, and the doctor, a male doctor, and he came in. He was examining me, and he was asking me what happened. And so I was scared. And so I told him that I fell, or whatever he told me to tell him. He told me to tell him either I had gotten in a fight with a girl or that I had failed. And so I told them whatever it is that he told me to tell them. They didn't believe me. They were suspicious. Brought another doctor in, a female doctor, to try to ask me, if what really happened or whatnot. And I honestly stuck to my story, because even though it didn't make sense and it didn't sound right, and I knew that they knew, and I knew that I wanted to say, what really happened. Like I said, I was scared. I didn't want to have anybody come after me. I didn't want to disappear or end up getting, it was very serious, to the point where I literally could have gotten killed and they would have never found me. And it, it kind of like, I was there and I know who this person was, and I know what kind of stuff he did, and I know how much power he had. And so I was honestly scared, and I was just like, I don't want to end up disappearing. I don't want to end up getting hurt even worse. I could have had people, he could have had people come and jump me. He could have had people it could have been all kinds of different things that could have happened, because if I would have told and he would have went to jail, if he would have went to jail, then I am really sure that someone would have came after me. And I probably wouldn't be here today, but by the grace of God, I am. And so anyway, I told them what I told them. They ended up giving me a steroid for my eye to help my eye get better. At the time, I didn't even know it was a steroid. I just knew the medicine burned really bad when I would put it in my eye. And so they gave me the medicine, and I ended up taking the medicine for a while. Now, right before this happened, so around 4th of July, or maybe in June or July, somewhere around right before this happened, I had put in for a job. Like I said, I was applying for jobs all the time beforehand, but this is like, I was applying before I met him. I applied like that whole first year that I moved up there. I was applying for all kinds of fast food restaurants. I was applying for everything. And like I said, I just wasn't getting hired. And even looking back at that now, that could have just been another trick of the enemy to set it up to where it made it seem like I didn't have a choice. Like I needed to, depend on him because I didn't have a choice. And so, just looking back at that, I'm like, that could have just been a trick of the enemy, just, helping me to like push me into where he was trying to get me. So anyway, I had applied for a job at a warehouse right before this incident happened, because this was on 4th of July. Also, I will say remember I don't know if it was on 4th of July or if it was the day before or something. We were celebrating, I believe, 4th of July. And they had gave me some kind of, I think we were smoking kush or something, and I was also drinking a lot, because I would mix drinks and I would go in there and I would sneak and drink it, and I put stuff in the freezer, and I was mixing drinks. I was drinking dark and I was drinking light, and I was just all over the place, because like I said, I was just trying to make it through from day to day. I was in a bad situation, and I was just like, I just didn't want to feel, I didn't want to be there, and I didn't know how to get out of it. And so this, I don't think okay, so this actually could have been why he also was mad and he ended up beating me the way he did, because I believe it happened the day before, because this is now the next day as he's hit me or whatnot. I've already went to the doctor. I don't know if it was maybe 2 or 3 days after the incident. I don't think it was the same day. And then, but on the day, it was either the day before or it was the day of 4th of July. And I want to say it was the day of. Yes, it was, because that incident technically didn't happen on actual 4th of July or the 5th of July. What happened was, like I said, I was mixing drinks and I was smoking Kush, which we didn't normally use to smoke. And I think Kush is a little stronger than regular weed, it depending on what kind of weed you have. And so I was mixing drinks and I was sneaking in the uh, kitchen and I had some frozen stuff and I was drinking that, and that was like mixed with like vodka or light or some type of light alcohol. And then I was also drinking with them and they had like some other stuff. I don't even know. So I was mixing a lot of stuff and smoking, and I got so high out of my mind that, I mean, it's not funny, but like I said, I kind of have a nervous laugh sometimes, and just thinking back at it, like, girl, what was you doing? You just, So sometimes I laugh at myself, and I don't mean to be insensitive like I put on my earlier video at all. It's just part of like my personality. Like I have joy and I smile and I laugh all the time, and that was something I didn't have at that time, and so now it's just I'm laughing at like, what was you doing, girl? Like, what was you doing? And I'm talking about myself. So, I apologize if I laugh or something like that. I don't mean to, like I said, be insensitive, and it's just a nervous laugh. Anyway, so I get so high that I black out, or high and drunk that I black out. And I don't know if you've ever mixed alcohol or if you ever mixed alcohol dark and light. It don't. It's just like how in real life, dark and light do not go together. And I mixed it, and then on top of that, I was smoking Kush. And I don't even know if we were smoking regular weed too. But all of that combination, I was gone, okay? And I don't know if this really happened. This is what he said happened, and I don't know if it was just him just manipulating and just, doing this on purpose just to, but I know that I blacked out because I know that I remember I was crawling on the floor I was laying on the floor, and I was so intoxicated that I could not get up, and I just crawled into the bathroom and I was throwing up. Now we had guests over. We had some woman, I don't even know who she was, and it was his baby mama, the kids, and then his friend whose house we had went to that first night. And so yeah, I blacked out, and he said that I got up in front of his friend and I started doing a strip tease. I honestly don't believe that. I never have believed that, because I'm just like, why would I do that? Especially if I know he's sitting here. Like, I'm not gonna get up in front of his friend and start. And I wasn't even looking at his friend like that. Like, why would I? Come on now. And you're sitting here. Why would I not go to you? So I don't know. He said that that's what I did, and then he tried to tell everybody else just kind of didn't really say anything, but I guess they were nodding their head in agreement or whatever. But anyway, so I just remember crawling to I remember crawling to the bathroom floor, and I remember laying on the bathroom floor. I even remember what I was wearing. And I was laying on the bathroom floor and I was just throwing up, and I told he was getting ready to take us over to where we were supposed to be going to her family's house. She was gonna get dropped off with the kids. I was gonna get dropped off with my family. That's why I'm like, okay, was this the same day? Because like I said, I blacked out. So I remember crawling on the floor and stuff. And what happened was he might have, I know he took us over his family house maybe like 2 or 3 times, where he dropped me off at my family's house and then we had to walk down his family's house. But I want to say it was the 4th of July because he did stay out all night. So it was either that day or the next day or something like that. It was somewhere around the 4th of July. So anyway, I at some point I think they left me at the house because I was so sick and I was throwing up, and it was embarrassing him that I was doing this in front of that I was even throwing up in front of his friend and this other lady who was visiting or whoever. So then, and maybe it was the day before. I don't know. I can't remember the exact day, but it might have been the day before 4th of July. And then we were getting ready to go celebrate do the stuff. And then the 4th of July is when he actually took us and dropped off, whatever. It was somewhere within that time. So he was already fuming from that because I had embarrassed him. And this was not the first time that I think I had embarrassed him in front of that particular guy friend, because I had gotten drunk off of beer before because we were out and I had never drank beer and that's all they were ordering. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll drink beer. So they're over there talking and I'm sitting there by myself and I was just like drinking. I said, oh, this is nasty. And I'm like, why do people drink this? And then I was like, oh, well, you can't get drunk off of it. So I drank like the whole pitcher of beer and I got drunk and I didn't realize it and I got sick and I ended up throwing up. I ended up getting in the car and he had to keep stopping with that particular friend in the car and I had to and I ended up like having to open the door and throw up. Now that led to him basically forcing me to get drunk because it was like a punishment and like you need to learn how to handle your alcohol. And so at some point he took me to one of the houses that we usually go to that had the bars and all that stuff set up in there. And he had brought some tequila up, and to this day I do not like tequila because of this reason. He brought some tequila up there, and he made me drink so much tequila, like he was just making me take shots and double shots and shots and shots. And I was like, I don't want any more. He was like, no, drink it. And then he had these colorful sticks, and he threw the sticks all up in it. He had a whole thing of them, and he threw them all up in the air and let them all fall on the ground. He's like, now pick up the yellow stick and pick up the, and I'm just like, what? And I'm like out of it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like trying to pick it up. And he's like getting mad as I'm, because he's like, you need to learn how to handle your alcohol. You need to do better. Da, da, da. And this is, like I said, after now, I think this is like, I had embarrassed him like twice because I was, drinking so much that I couldn't handle my alcohol. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So this stuff kind of happened. Besides him getting me drunk, I think that happened after the fact. But the other stuff happened prior to me getting this job. So I had already put in the application, I believe the month before in June. And so I ended up getting the job in July. You know what? That's why we were smoking. That is exactly why. Because I had went for like a couple months without smoking weed at all. So I was just drinking because I was wanting to get a job. And so I had stopped smoking weed. And so now I had gotten the job and we were celebrating, around the 4th of July. And so that is why I was smoking weed because they had brought some kush and some weed or whatnot because now I had already passed my drug test and I was able to get in the job. I don't smoke anymore. This was years ago in 2008. So anyway, that is why, and then that's probably why the combination was even more lethal because, or I won't say lethal, but more potent because I hadn't been smoking in so long. I'm smoking kush, which is stronger, and I'm mixing alcohols, and I'm mixing alcohol and kush. So anyway, that's why I blacked out. So anyway, I got this job, and he now has beat me and messed up my eye, and it took a couple of weeks for my eye to really heal. My face was bruised, but it wasn't like black and blue. It was just like, it was swollen and it was bruised, but like, it wasn't like, I don't remember like having, like big contusions or anything. Besides, like, I just remember my eye because it was so bad. I was just like, every day I was just looking in the mirror and I was just like, what is, going on? And even if I wanted to cry, it would burn and stuff, for it to come down over that cut or whatever. So anyway, I get the job at the warehouse and I'm like, this is like, I think I start like a couple days after he has hit me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think that's why he took me to the doctor too, because I start a couple days after he hit me. And, he wants to make sure that everything is in place for when I go to this job. So I go to this job and I have to put on sunglasses because the light hurts my eyes and because I'm getting like headaches and stuff and because like my eye is like still healing and it's like still like pretty damaged. So I have to put on sunglasses and wear sunglasses. So I went to the doctor and I asked them to give me a doctor's note to wear the sunglasses in a warehouse. I don't know if you ever worked in a warehouse or been in a warehouse. It's not very light in a warehouse. but I had to put on sunglasses. So I put on the sunglasses and I end up going into work, and that is, yeah, I dang, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time because I really got to get ready for work. Ah, my goodness. I want to like go ahead and get this done. And I planned on waking up earlier so I could get it done. But of course, this is the night that I don't barely get any much sleep. And then I'm like tossing and turning all night. And then I'm up early this morning at like 5 just to go get breakfast. And then I'm like laying there trying to go back to sleep. But yeah, it's gonna be, I'm gonna have to add it on here. I might just cut off this part while I'm talking and just go straight into it. But if you see me in a different setting, in a different hair, or whatever the case is, look, I'm telling this story as much as I can. I'm trying to get it recorded and get it added on there. And so if you see it all over the place and here and there, don't pay attention to all that. Just listen to the story, okay? But yeah, I need to get ready. And if I go into the job, that's a whole nother thing. So I'm just gonna have to go ahead and cut it off here. But I'll add it to the next part of the video. Okay, thanks. Okay, hi loves, and welcome back into the middle of the video. I know this is so ghetto. But like I said, I had to go to work. I am at work again. I'm actually at the same hotel, but it's days later. So I try to put aside the time so that I could be able to go ahead and get the rest of this done. And yes, so I'll just go ahead and get straight into it. Thank you for coming back to hear the rest. Sorry, it's so ghetto. This is how life is right now. I just gotta get it where I can because, like I said, I'm just busy. I've been working since 3 this morning, so excuse me. Well, I got up at 3 this morning, and it is now evening, and I need to be going to sleep. We worked 4 flights today, but anyway, no, you ain't come to hear that. You came to hear about the rest of the rest of what happened, right? So anyway, went to this is so awkward because this hotel is so quiet. It's like I don't hear anybody's TV, I don't hear anything. So then it's like, it's just kind of weird because usually you can hear TVs or something or like some kind of background noise. But anyway, um so I went to work at the job, and I'm kind of just going back and telling this story in detail. Like I said, all the details are going to matter. You're going to see how the details come together later. But then also, there's a reason why I'm telling the details because I do want to also hopefully offer some tips to help people early on so that you hopefully don't have to go through what I experienced. And then also, yeah, so, but I did not go back and like re relive the story in my mind prior to doing the video because it's a lot. And like I said, I've been working. I'm on a trip. This is days later. I've been working so much, and so it's just I don't even have the time and the space to even go into that except for doing it here. And I want it to be more authentic and not like I rehearsed it. So anyway, like I said, let me get into it. So I get this job and I go to work with the the sunglasses, because my eye is damaged. And so when I go to work, I end up meeting. So most of the people at this job, I'm still having trouble, making friends or talking to people. I think just like when when you come from a different type of culture and stuff, I guess sometimes it's hard to fit in. Like I said, I'm not judging anybody, and I eventually fit in later on, after a while of being there. But at first, I didn't fit in with the culture of where I was. People used to say that I'm bougie and that I talk proper and that I act like a white person. And so that was something that, and nothing against white people if anyone is watching this, but, that was some of the reasons why I didn't always fit in. But now I probably have, now I'm just a little bit of everything. I'm just ghetto. I'm all over the place. But yeah, so that was some of the issues I was having with making friends. And so nobody really was talking to me except for there was this guy there who he ended up basically befriending me. And that was very nice. Like, even to this day, this is, what, 12, 13 years later, and like he's still one of my friends or whatnot, and I'm grateful for him. But he did come up, and him and another guy, and they introduced themselves and talked to me and everything like that. Within the first couple of days, as I'm talking to him, of course, I think he said something that made me laugh, and I completely forgot about my eye. And so I had on the glasses, but I kind of like laughed, and I, like, how you, like, your eyes go up like this. And so I could see the like shock on his face, like, because I guess he kind of seen my eye and kind of like, whoa, like, jumped or whatever. But he didn't say anything. And I think he kind of knew what had happened, even though, I was still telling everybody that, whatever he told me to say. But I think he kind of knew what happened. And so he was just very kind, and he came up and he, would check on me. And so anyway, I started getting a ride home with him and his friend. His friend was the one who had the car at the time, and so they would give me a ride home because we would get off, I believe, at 1 in the morning, and I believe the city bus stopped running at 12. Now, mind you, told you that the man who I'm with, he will not come and pick me up or take me and drop me off. He makes me catch the bus. And so I end up getting a ride home with them, and as I am riding home with them, I would just have them drop me off around where the bus stop was. I don't think I ever told the guy that, that the bus wasn't even running anymore. I just had them drop me off where the bus stop was, and then I would walk down the block to get to the house. And at the time, I did not know that he had somebody watching me. And so while I'm at this job, I eventually find out that his friend, I believe his friend, the one that was, we had went to his house, and the one who was there for 4th of July, I believe he started working at the job at one point. And so, of course, he had him watching me, and I knew it was his friend. So I'm like, like, oh man. Well, then there was other people that were watching me even before his friend came to the job, or maybe his friend worked a different shift. I don't know. Can't remember exactly about that, but I remember his friend working there. And so there was he also had like his sister's husband, or like this other, or maybe his brother or somebody that worked there that I didn't know about at first. And one of those people eventually, because I think I get a little nervous and like tense up, because people are just, I'm a friendly person, and so I'm just talking, I'm young, we're just all laughing and kikiing and stuff. And so but I was kind of getting nervous because I was like, I don't know who is who, and who to trust and things like that. And so eventually one of them came to me. I think I ended up seeing, after this, somewhere after this time, I ended up finding out that one of the guys that I did work with was either his sister's husband, or his brother, or something like that. And so I was like nervous. And so he came up to me one day, and he was just like, look, he was like, he want me to come back and tell on you and tell everything that you're doing, but I'm not even with that. He was like, just be careful. Like, he is, crazy, like, he dangerous, and just be careful. Like, watch out for yourself, because he got people out here, and just be careful. And so that really, made me a little even more nervous. But at the same time, like I said, I wasn't really doing anything besides getting a ride home. But he wouldn't pick me up, so the bus is not running. What do you expect me to do? I can't walk from after working 8 hours or whatever. So anyway, the I continued to be friends with the two guys, and then eventually I ended up meeting a woman who became like my best friend for like 14 years. And this is kind of leading up to me escaping, I guess, the relationship. But so me and her meet, and I believe she was on a different shift at the time. And but we would have some time where we would be able to talk. And so I, she would talk to me, even though a lot of the other people wouldn't. And so we were talking, and then I think, as my eye was healing and stuff, and then, people were asking questions, and they wanted to know, as I'm, you know, out here talking to people with this eye looking all crazy and stuff, wearing sunglasses in a warehouse. And so, anyway, I at some point, I guess I told her what was kind of happening or whatnot. She was having some, things going on with her, but I ended up sharing with her some of the stuff that was like happening. And so she eventually kind of was just, trying to convince me, like, you just need to leave. Like, you don't need to deal with that. Like, you just need to leave. And I'm like, well, I can't leave. First of all, I don't have anywhere to go. And second of all, he won't let me leave. And she's like, oh, forget that. Just, leave. Like, he can't make you, do anything. And I'm like, yeah, you don't know. And so we talked for maybe a few months or so, and we, would talk while we were working and stuff. And like I said, she was on like the earlier shift, I believe, and then I was on the later shift, but our shifts kind of overlapped a little bit. And so we were able to talk and get to know each other. And so eventually things just progressively got worse at home, of course, because now I have this opportunity to go and do this modeling that he took me to, that he didn't want to take me to. And he knows that I'm trying to plan my escape. And so he's like, he's starting to get more petty. He's starting to like get more controlling and more, angry, because he's like, he feels like I'm trying to leave, because at this point I'm probably shut down. I'm like, don't, I don't really want much else to do with him. And so he goes and talks to, and I don't know if I already said this, because like I said, I'm doing this in different sections, but hopefully I didn't. And so with the modeling thing, he goes and calls the Better Business Bureau or whatnot, and he's like, oh, they have a horrible rating, and that it's a scam, and da da da. And so he's like, just trying everything he can to try and get me to not basically go and be able to do this modeling thing. And I'm just like, seriously. And so I believe it was a month from the time that the model thing was supposed to happen, or it could have been 3 months. It was within a month to 3 months. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm just like, planning my escape. So as I'm doing this, like I said, he's getting angry, and he is trying whatever he can. So he decides that he wants me, and I don't know if I said this already either, but he wants me to go and buy things for the house. Now, I haven't been buying things for the house, and now he wants me to go buy things for the house. So he's like, oh, go pick up some toilet paper and whatever else. And so I go to the store and I get toilet paper and whatever else he was wanting me to get. And so he gets upset because I didn't get the toilet paper that he usually buys for the house. Well, what I was taught when growing up is if you when you buy it, you get to choose what you want. So I chose what kind of toilet paper I like to use because I'm buying it for the house. I still bought the big pack and everything like that. But anyway, he was just trying to find any reason he could. And he started like trying to make me pay for more stuff because he knew how much I was getting paid. He knew what day I was getting paid. So he wanted me, oh, you need to pay for this. Oh, you need to pay for that. You owe me money for this. You owe me money for that because I've been paying for this for all these months and you need to start helping out and she needs to start helping out and, whatever, just trying to do whatever he can to basically take all my money away so that I don't have the opportunity to go to this model call. And so I'm getting more annoyed because I'm just like, I could tell he was doing it on purpose. And then it's like I said, his attitude was getting worse. He's still going out partying. He's leaving me at the house, with his baby mama and children. And he's still, partying. He's still waking us up, having us, I'm failing out of my first or second semester of college or whatever it was. And it was just a lot. So, I'm talking to the girl at work, and then I'm trying to think of like how can I get my stuff and get out because like I have a lot of my stuff there, and he's has people watching me, and then his baby mama's gonna tell him if I leave, and then he might be around the corner parked somewhere like, and then like I said, he had people watching us. So he even I believe it was somebody just sitting watching the apartment, like even when we were just there, they're just watching the apartment, just, in case we left or whatnot after, and we didn't tell him. And so I'm like, well, how am I going to get out of here? And I'm like, okay, I just need to get my important documents. I need to get my important documents. I was adopted when I was younger. And so I knew I needed my birth certificate, my adoption papers, because I know that stuff is difficult to get again. And I had a little bit of money that I had put away, not much, just maybe $100, $200 or something like that, and it was kind of like hidden in my stuff. And then I also wanted to get my belongings because I literally brought all of my stuff. He bought me 4 pair of shoes that were like $20 at like what shoe deal or something, like some little cheap store. You can have them shoes. I brought all the rest of my stuff. Like I just want the rest of my stuff and I want to leave. And so as I'm like planning and trying to figure out like how do I get away from him, he already knows where my family stays. He already knows, he knows enough about me to where like if he wanted me to stay, like he's gonna, he could come back and, or have somebody do something to where, I can't leave or where he get me to come back or whatever the case is. So as we get closer to the model call, he is now, like I said earlier, he had he pulled me down in the basement. I believe, did I say this earlier? I think I did. He pulled me down in the basement and he made me, he wrote down all of my cards and all of my numbers and everything like that. So he would check it every week and he would, see if I had any extra money, if I was spending money and stuff like that. So he he it just was just every day it was just something. And so um we as it gets closer to the date, he decides, okay, well, now I need you to start paying like rent. And guess how much he wants me to pay for rent? The amount of my check, which was like $300 a week. It was like two something, basically taking my whole entire check. And so I'm like, what? Like, that I only make this much. And so he's just like, well, it doesn't matter. You need to pay your way and all this other stuff. And so on one day, he ends up, I don't remember exactly what was going on, but I know that I got home late that night. I went straight to sleep. I ended up it was payday, and I had my clothes on from the day before. I think I put them back on or whatever because he's like, get up, we need to go down there and I need some money. I need money for this, blah, blah, blah. And so he takes me to the ATM and I'm like, what do I need to go for? Like, and he wants me to go and get it out with my card so that, of course, it won't show him, deducting money out my account or whatever. And so his baby mama and the kids are in the car, and then he makes me come, and I'm like so over it. I'm so annoyed. I'm so tired. I'm just like, whatever. And so I'm mad because he's taken, like I said, all of my money. He wants to take. Soon, this is payday. Like I literally just got paid at 12 midnight. This is, a couple hours later. Now you're making me go to the ATM and you're withdrawing all my money and taking all my money. And so when we get back to the house, he says, give me my key. What? So I've been staying here for all of these months and I've had a key. And now all of a sudden he just decides, give me my key. Cause he knows that I'm like, this, I'm gonna make a run for it at some point. And so he takes the key, he takes my two phones that I paid for. They were both prepaid, but hey, I still paid for them. He takes he keeps all of my belongings, and the only thing he lets me leave with that day is the clothes that I had on from the night before when I went to work that I had put on to go down to the ATM. And I was running bath water to get in the shower in the bath whenever he was trying to make me go and get the money out. And so didn't even get to take a bath, nothing. He lets me leave the house with the clothes I had on and my work badge. And that's it. He makes me leave everything else there. And so at this point, I'm just like, I cannot take this anymore. Like I said, my friend is just like, just leave, just don't even go back. Like, it don't even matter. You can come stay with me and my family, whatever. And so I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on? Like, I don't know what to do. And so that day, I believe I was just like, I was fed up. I was just like, I don't know what else to do. And so I just didn't go back that night. And this is, a few months into the job, like I said, it's been people watching me, so somebody knew where I went that night. He had somebody follow me when I left the job, and I ended up going to my friend's house. She stayed with her mother, and her children stayed there with her as well. And so I ended up going to her house, and I was really nervous because I'm just like, I know what kind of person he is. She didn't know what kind of person he was. And I didn't want him to come over and, start any ruckus or anything. And also her brother was there. I just didn't want to get everybody else involved in it. But it was just like, okay, it's now or never. Like, he already took everything anyway. Like, either you're going to make a run for it now, or you just, whatever, what are you going to do? So things turn rapidly. So that night I leave and I go to her house. The next morning I wake up. She went and got me a couple shirts from the store for me to change and put on a different shirt so I can go to work. I had on some jeans or whatever. We go to work, and like the whole time I'm like nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Like, he's gonna pop up at some point. I don't know where he's at. And so nothing happened that night. He didn't send anybody over, but like I said, he knew where I was. And at the time, I had a feeling, but I didn't really know for sure. So within the next, because now he's thinking I'm going to call the police on him and everything like this. So within that night, they removed all of my belongings from the house. And I had a lot of stuff that was in my room and in the basement. They removed all of my belongings from the house. He gave his baby mama and sisters and whoever my clothing items that they wanted. And so I didn't get a lot of stuff back. But he also made me call, I think I called his phone or something, but then he told me, no, I think I ended up calling at some point, and I was like, I just want to come get my stuff. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I'm like, come on now, like, I need my stuff. He's like, call on your phone. And so I'm like, what? So I call on my phone, and I'm like, how am I supposed to get my stuff back? He's like, well, you owe me $600 for your stuff. And I'm like, what? 600, like, I brought all of my stuff. What do you mean I owe you money for my stuff? He's like, well, if you want your stuff back, then you owe me $600. Now, mind you, I'm not thinking about the model car right now. He knows the date is coming up. The date is coming up probably at this point in maybe 2 weeks or so. And so I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like $600? But he's like, yeah, whenever you get paid, you can pay me the next week when you get paid, and then you can pay the week after that, and then you can get your stuff. And so I'm like, what? Like, that's all the money I'm gonna get. I only get $300 a week. Well, you owe me $600. Da da da. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I end up staying with my friend and her family. And every day I'm just still on pins and needles because I'm like, I don't know. I don't think he's going to let me go that easy. I know he still has somebody watching me, even whenever, every day he has somebody watching me. And so eventually, I think I'm like, okay, I need my stuff. Like all of my stuff is over here. He ain't pay for nothing. You can keep them little shoes that you gave me. Like just give me my stuff. And so I call on my phone and I go to meet him and pick up my stuff. And now at the time, I didn't know where my stuff was because he wanted to erase every trace of me. Like that way, if I sent the police over there, there would be no trace of me. And then everybody would lie and be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. She was never here. And at the time, we didn't have phones and stuff. Like our phones weren't as good quality as they are now. So of course, I wouldn't have been able to prove that I lived there or anything like that. And so, and then he wouldn't have had any. He didn't want any police involvement. Like I said, he was on parole. So I eventually call him. He picks me up. I think I had to catch the bus over to meet him somewhere. And then he picks me up and he takes me over. And I was so mad when I found out where my stuff was. First of all, I had to pay to get my own stuff back that I brought and that I paid for. But then he takes me to one of his sister's house. And they had took all of my stuff and they had put it in the basement. They put it all in trash bags besides what they had picked through. They had took all my cute clothes and shoes and all that stuff. And then they put the rest of it in trash bags and put it down in her basement. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, I give him the money. Or before I even give him the money, before we even go in the house, this is how I find out that he's been having somebody watch me the whole entire time. Did not even know it. Even on the day when I left, I didn't know there was somebody, but I felt like it was somebody watching me. So he proceeds to tell me now the day that I had got the second phone, that was now months ago when I said I had went and got the phone. He proceeds to tell me every single thing I did that day when I left the house. I got on three city buses. I stopped over at the hair store on the corner of, and I mean, he told me street for street in order of the way that I did it. He told me every stop that I made. He told me the people that I stopped and talked to. I had met my cousins up there at the store. I was talking to them after I got on the bus. I rode down the street, and I mean, he street for street, every single detail. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you what? Like, how do you even know that? And so he said, I went over to the phone store. I came back. I went across the street to the hair store. I met my cousins. We walked down the street to my family's house. And then I went, and then he proceeds to tell me another time when I had took the car, and he tells me every single street in the order that I went, that I drove the car to where I went. And he tells me every person. So even if there was, a tracker in the car, there was people following me because he tells me I stopped and talked to my mom. I stopped and talked to this person, blah, blah, blah. I went over here to my family's house over here. I went over here to my family, like in order. I stopped at the corner store and I'm like, what? Like, how do you know that? And so he told me a couple different times, and I'm just like, and now it's coming to me like, oh my gosh, he has had people watching me the whole time. Because, like I said, it was a couple times where I was like, is there somebody following me? You just have a feeling like, is there somebody following me? But then, like, you're just like, no, maybe not. No, there were really people following me every single time I left the house, and people sitting outside the house watching us to make sure that we didn't leave the house. It was crazy. So anyway, he I, gives me this shock, and I'm like, okay, can I have my stuff back now? And so we go in the house. He gives me my stuff. He acts all like nothing's going on. Like like as if this is just a normal day. And then he goes and drops me off. He already knows where I'm staying. So I believe he dropped me off over there. And he finally gives me my phones back and my other stuff or whatever. And he's like, so then he waits. Now, at this point, I believe it was a week until the model call. And with all the stuff that was going on, of course, I'm not even thinking about the model call because how am I going to get to Chicago when he just took all my money? And I don't have my clothes, a lot of them, because they have stolen all of my good clothing that I would even wear. And I have no money to buy clothing, and now I have no money to get to Chicago. And so I think a week or two passes, the model car passes, and he is so, Lord, he calls and he's like, just talking to me, asking me questions and stuff. And he's like, oh, how did the model call go? And I'm just like, and that's when it like hit me, like everything that he did, it was strategic to stop me from going to that model call. Like, even though he let me leave, but he wanted to basically hurt me worse by taking away the opportunity that was, ahead of me. And I once again fell into the trap. And so that hurt, but it is what it is. And um I go stay with the friend and her family for a few weeks, and then things are not necessarily working exactly well there. And so I end up going to stay with a coworker, another coworker, and she had a situation going on too, but it wasn't exactly the best, but it was what all I could do at the time. Didn't have no money. Then um maybe about a couple of weeks, maybe a month later, um, or maybe a couple months later. I don't know, can't remember exactly the timeline. But at some point, he had took all my money. And then it wasn't just the $600. He actually, I still had to pay him after that too. And he had my information, he had my cards, he had all that stuff. He kept my cards, he kept my stuff. So he was still taking my money even after the fact or whatever, or until I paid him whatever amount he wanted me to pay him or whatever. And so my phone got cut off because I couldn't pay the bill. And it got to the point where I literally was homeless. I was hungry. I didn't have money to buy food. I didn't have money to buy personal things I need. Like he was taking everything that I had. And, you know, it was just, it was something. So anyway, I'm staying with this other coworker, and her mother is happens to be there, and she's staying there as well, or she comes and stays and spends the night and all that. And it's a 1 bedroom apartment, and where I'm sleeping on the couch, the mother and her boyfriend are sleeping in the living room on the couch or on the floor or whatever. And the other girl, is in her room, and it was a whole situation there too. Okay. Went from one bad situation to the next. Okay. It was crazy. I'm not going to go into that because that's not really the gist of this story. He's coming back. Just hold on. So I go stay with this other girl, and while I'm staying there, I get to the point where I have no money whatsoever. I can't eat. I can't do anything. So guess what? The enemy already has gone ahead, and he's already made plans at this place. I don't know. I'm young and dumb, still naive, still trying to figure out life, still just was dumb at the time. Okay. Fell into another trap. So the woman who is the co-worker's mother happens to know the guy who I left. And now this is when I start to find out how serious this situation really was. I knew it was serious and I knew it was dangerous and I knew he was dangerous because of some things that I had seen and heard while I was around and stuff. Um, and that's what really gave me the fear of like not wanting to run away because I knew what had happened to some other people and what could have possibly happened to me. Now I meet this woman and she says, "You were with him and he let you get away?" And I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean, you know?" And so she shows me pictures of them when they were younger because she's around the same age as him. And she shows me pictures of them when they were younger. And it's him. He got the same nubs, got the same big old head, all of that. And so she's like looking like, "So he just let you leave?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, what do you mean, you know?" And now I'm still not even knowing. This man is still has people. It's probably 2 months at this time. He still got people following me. I'm still getting watched daily and don't even know it. So anyway, she tells me about who he is or who he used to be. Now this is pre-parole. This is part of the reason why he got on parole in the first place. But this is pre-parole. And he was a force to be reckoned with, okay? And he was doing a lot of stuff. And he was a very dangerous, very powerful man. She told me about some things that he had did to people, and she told me about like, you know, he was able to just go into somewhere and he would shut the place down and he, you know, he was able to do whatever he wanted. Some of the things that we had kind of done while I was with him at first, where he was taking me all these places and we were doing all this stuff, and it was like he would go in the back and be talking and stuff, but then it's like I never really knew. I'm just, oh, you know, I'm out with, you know, older guy and blah blah blah. And so then it started to like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and it was the grace of God that he allowed me to get away, because there was some people, you know, like I said, his child's mother, he had beat her so bad that she was in intensive care for a long time. She had nothing at all. She wanted nothing at all to do with him. And then there was another mother who of the other child, and she didn't want anything. They sent the kids, but the kids was old enough. They was, you know, preteens and teenagers, and they was like, "You can go, but I don't want nothing to do with them." And so yeah, it was a very serious situation. I was like, wow, like, yeah. So he let me get away, but I wasn't away fully yet. So um while I'm there, like I said, don't have money, can't eat, none of that stuff. So I also find out that if you haven't figured it out yet, he had some pimp tendencies. And so he used to have a lot of women, and he used to kind of, you know, be able to do whatever he wanted to do. And so my video did cut off. So I just recorded a few minutes. And if I say something over again, I apologize because I didn't know my uh, mic had cut off or whatnot. But anyway, so he was, you know, definitely a force to be reckoned with, and he was very dangerous. And so she was just very surprised, like, he let you go. And so at the time, I thought that he had let me go, but really, he still had people watching me. It got to the point to where basically I didn't have any. He was still taking my money. Even after I paid him for the clothing and stuff, he still had my card, and so he was still taking my money. And I think he still had one of my phones, actually, because he told me to call my phone, I believe, to get like my card back after I paid him the amount that he wanted me to pay. And so it got to the point where now this is, you know, a month or so, or I don't know how long down the line. I'm not getting any money because he's taking all my money. I'm staying with this other girl. It's a whole bunch of craziness going on around us in the house. Her mom is staying there, and me and her mom are. She's still working at the job. She didn't get laid off because I think she was on a different shift than I was, but I got laid off along with a lot of other people, and so Her mom didn't have a job, and so basically we're trying to figure out like how to get food and how to get different stuff. And so basically her mom decides that, she wants to try to pimp me on the side. Didn't know that she was pimping me. And so she starts basically setting me up to like go out here and talk to different guys and flirt with them and stuff and try to get us food and try to get us money and stuff like that. And so she's kind of like reeling me in, and me not knowing it, I'm falling for it because I'm like thinking like, she's basically having guys that she knows or just other guys like that she sees because her her ex-boyfriend was an actual pimp, and he had a whole bunch of girls that he was actually still an active, actual real life pimp, and he was traveling around with the girls. And so she's grooming me to try to send me to him. But at the time, I don't realize this. And so she's basically just kind of having me flirt with different people and, try to get food and try to get them to buy us different stuff and basically give us money and stuff like that. And I wasn't actually like, you know, sleeping with people for money at that time. But I eventually did kind of end up sleeping with some people to get some money. And so she's just basically like grooming me over these next few weeks, trying to get me prepared to send me down to him. And so she is, it's kind of working out a little bit because I'm able to like, there's a couple guys who like are looking at me, and at the time I don't even know if they're pimps. There's pimps that are actually there in the area where we are, and they're actual real life pimps too. But of course, when I saw them, they didn't have their girls around, and they didn't look like what you see on TV where they got the whole pimp suit on and they're walking with the cane. They didn't look like that. They look like regular guys that you just see out and they're trying to talk to you and stuff. And so, anyway, we go on this journey of trying to do that. I end up actually, there's a strip club right around the corner from where we're staying at, and I end up going to eventually apply for the strip club. But before that happens, I believe is when she's like basically trying to groom me without me really knowing what she's doing. She's basically getting me prepared, and so she doesn't tell me exactly what he's doing. Like when she's like, oh, he's down in Florida or in New Orleans or something, and she's like, yeah, you can go down there and like you can make some money and blah blah blah. And so she doesn't tell me up front like everything. She kind of makes it seem like it was better than what it was. And at the time, I don't know why, but I was trusting her, and she basically was just ensnaring me in another trap. But because she was around the same age as him, and they just knew that I was just naive and I didn't come from this type of environment. I didn't know what was going on. And so anyway, back to him. He comes back. And so basically the time go a couple weeks or months or whatever pass by, don't have any money, still trying to get money, still trying to flirt with guys, do whatever I can do. I think I applied for some more jobs, still didn't get hired. And so my phone is cut off, and so who are they going to call? Of course they're going to call him because he was the person listed as my emergency contact or whatever the case was. And so they call him, and he calls me. He's like, asking me all kinds of questions, just talking to me. And I'm just talking like all casually and stuff because I'm still like, especially after finding out the information that she told me about him, and then just realizing like, that he had people watching me. And he even, like I said, he knew where I was even the night that I left from the job that day. He knew that I had went over there with the girl, the other friend and everything, because he had somebody watching me. And he told me about that as well. He told me like what I did that night, and I'm just like, yeah. So anyway, he calls me and he's like, basically just talking to me. Oh, how have you been? What have you been up to? Blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, nothing. I've just been working, just filling my time with working, working, working. And he's like, oh, really? And so of course he's getting all happy because he's just like, ooh, I get to tell her that basically she got laid off or whatever. And so we have a conversation, and then he's like, oh well, oh, I just wanted to tell you that your job just called and they said you were laid off. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no, you're lying. I'm like, why would you, He's like, no, I'm serious. He was like, they called me because they couldn't reach you. And so they said that you were laid off. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I called the job, and of course, it's true. I'm laid off. And so now I think it's already been probably a month or so. Now it's going into where it ends up being another month or two where I'm basically with the girl's mom, and I'm like, and she's kind of like grooming me into sending me to be with her ex pimp boyfriend, who she is like a pimp mother where they recruit girls to go and be with pimps, whatever. Anyway, so we so I'm kind of even more devastated because it's like I don't have anywhere to go. I'm staying in this uncomfortable, dysfunctional environment. I don't have any food. It was to the point the girl who, the who still she still worked at the job, but like she would cook and she would buy food, but she wouldn't allow me and her mother to eat it. She would, and she didn't like leftovers because she said she didn't like air on her food, but she wouldn't allow us to eat her food, and she would just let it sit in the fridge and let it sit in there for days. And then her boyfriend was coming over, and he was just, it was a lot. He was just every day they were fighting and all that. And but he actually was telling her like, won't you let them eat the food? And she's like, no, they need to get their own food, blah, blah, blah. So it was just crazy. But, she let us stay, whatever. So, um, I'm doing what I'm doing to basically, flirting people, whatever. And, he now has told me I'm laid off. And then we I think within the next couple weeks she's like, oh, I know this guy, he'll take care of you, like he'll buy this and stuff, he'll do this for that, da da da. And so and it's like, oh, you get to go to New Orleans, you get to go to Florida, like you meet him, and like I think I caught the train down to Florida or whatever to meet him, and or New Orleans or something like that. And so I went down there. Now, before y'all get judgy, okay? It was not what you think. That whole situation was, it didn't even go the way it was supposed to go, which was good by the grace of God. I didn't sleep with not one person, and it didn't work out for him to pimp me because it was just, I have to tell about that a whole different time. But it didn't work out by the grace of God, and I ended up getting sent back to Wisconsin. It didn't turn out good. So, like I said, I'll tell you that another day. And I go back to Wisconsin, still staying, because I was only gone for about a week, I think, with him. And then I come back because it wasn't working. It wasn't working. I wasn't making no money. I wasn't sleeping nobody. I wasn't. It wasn't working. Okay. And so anyway, I come back, and so now her mother is kind of upset because she's just like, you messing up my stuff, and I'm looking like, what? And that wasn't the only time that she scammed me either, because she had me buy a car. It was just a whole bunch of stuff. I was just getting scammed left and right. I was just so naive and so just, yeah. So anyway, some time passes, and this is about him, so I'm going to try to go back to that. Some time passes, and I stay with them, or I stay in that and with my coworker and her mom for a while. Eventually, my coworker decides that she and her boyfriend are going to move out of town. Her abusive, crazy boyfriend who is on probation, it was a whole thing. But he was getting his probation moved to another state where his family was, and she was going to move with him. So she tells us basically like, I think we were able to stay there, but like we were gonna have to leave after a certain time because like she's moving with him. So she goes and moves with him for like a month or so, and I think me and her mom are there by ourselves trying to figure it out still. And then time passes, um and eventually I don't remember all the details right now. It's getting later and later, and I have to be up at 4 a.m. for this to work these flights tomorrow. But and I don't want to draw it out way too much longer. But anyway, let me get back to him. So within that situation, I like I said, I could tell you that another video at another time talk about the whole pimping situation because it was a whole situation. It wasn't just him; it was a lot. But anyway, so this guy that I left, we were um we kept in contact because like I said, I was still scared. I knew he was still watching me, but I didn't know he was still watching me. So um I find out that up to 9 months after I left him, he still knew where I was. He still knew who I was talking to. He still had people watching me. He still had people approaching me. He still like he didn't come back and like try to make me come back because he knew that, of course he could go to jail, I can call the police or whatever. But he still had people watching me like all the time. And I did not know this. I'm thinking, oh, as the time goes on, oh, I'm free. He don't care about me no more. No, he still was watching. So anyway, some time later, oh, yeah. So when I got laid off, me and some of the people that got laid off, we for some reason we decided to go celebrate. I don't know. I think we just was like, whatever. We all got laid off. Let's just go out and drink and party and all that stuff. So we decided to go out and drink and party, and it's like me and like five, six other girls or whatever from the job. And he calls me earlier that week, and he's like, "Hey, I'm switching my number, and so I just wanted to let you know, like, you won't be able to hear from me ever again because I'm switching my number and I'm getting this phone cut off, whatever." And I'm like, "Okay." Like, like, and so this is different because now it's a couple months later, and now I'm just like, I'm still being cordial, but I'm still like, okay, like whatever. And so, he ends up, he's like, I'm serious. I'm cutting off the this number. You won't hear from me again. I'm cutting it off on this day. And I'm like, okay. So he calls me like maybe 3 or 4 times, and he basically gives me this same spiel like over the course of the time before he was getting ready, the date that he was going to cut it off. Let's say he was going to cut it off on the 15th, and let's say he called me on like the first or something. Oh, I'm cutting this phone off on the 15th. I'm cutting it off. Da da da. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I'm serious, you're not gonna hear from me again. And I'm like, okay, like what you want me to say. So so anyway, the night that we decide, or one of the nights that we decide, no, it wasn't that night that we got laid off. It was another like night that I went out with the same girls from the job or whatever. We decided to go out, and this is actually I think this is a long time later. This is like months later. Anyway, I don't know. At some point, we go out and we are out partying, whatever. We leave from the place where we were. We go to the Waffle House with some guys that we met. Actually, they were driving down the highway and they yelled at the car to us, and we ended up talking through the window. And then we ended up, I don't know, it was a wild night. We was just having a lot of wild nights. And so we end up going to Waffle House with them because we went out and then we went to Waffle House. And we're sitting at Waffle House, and this man is calling me back to back to back. He called me 42 times. And my phone keeps going off, and I look at it and I hang it up. And I look at it and I hang it up. And this is like when he's telling me, "Oh, I'm gonna turn my phone off." And so I'm like, the amount of times he called me, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, think he's somewhere around. Like, I think he's watching me. I think he knows where I'm at because he can see I'm with the guys. And he's calling me, calling me, calling. And the guys are like, "Are you okay? You good? Like, like who blowing up your phone like that?" I'm like, "It's good. Like, whatever." And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I know he's somewhere around, and I'm like, I hope he don't come up and say nothing or do nothing. And this is months later, and I'm just like scared because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like he is calling me so much, and I go out like to the car, and I'm looking around, and I'm like just scared out of my mind because I'm like, oh my gosh, like is he about to come take me back or like what's going on? I don't even know. And so, I ended up finally just turning off my phone. We, went out to Waffle House. We went and got rooms and stuff, and we just went and stayed out in the rooms and stuff and talked to the guys and did whatever. And then he ends up calling me again a couple days later. And then I think I answered the phone, and he's like, I told you that I was getting my phone cut off and that you wouldn't be able to hear from me. And I'm like, okay, I told you, okay. And so I'm like, all right, well, do what you do. And so he hangs up the phone, and then I don't hear from him for like a couple weeks. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me just call his phone. Let me just see if he really did turn his phone off or if he was just doing that because he thought that I was out, with somebody or whatever. So I'll call the phone from a different phone, and he don't know the number. And of course he answers the phone. So he was lying. He just wanted me to basically, he wanted to see how much control he still had. So anyway, he realized that, as time was going on, that he didn't really have as much control. He came back around and, tried to have sex or whatever. And he convinced me to have sex with him maybe a couple times or whatever. And over the course of that time, and then up to about 9 months is whenever I was like, I knew for sure that he was still watching me. Now, after the 9 months, I don't know exactly. I think I just kind of was like at that point. I think I got with somebody else, and I felt like, he ain't worried about me no more. But the thing is, when I left, one of the things that I did not want to happen, and this is the reason why it took me so long to leave, even when my friend was trying to convince me, was that I left. Like I said, when I left without my anything but my work badge and my clothes that I had on. And so when I left, the when he gave me my stuff back, even though I paid for it, he kept my birth certificate, he kept my social security card, he kept my adoption papers, he kept everything that he could to be able to keep tabs on me. And this is another way that he was able to keep tabs on me because he knew someone. He was going to school in the medical field, but he also knew people in the medical field, and he would have them look me up. And so anytime I was registering my information, if I go get checked at the doctor or if I just, whatever, he was able to like look me up in the system because he had my social security number, my name, all that information. And so that was one of the ways that he was able to like keep track of me for so long. And so I just really regretted the fact that I didn't go back that day because I just feel like even if I could at least got my adoption papers, my social security card, my birth certificate, and the money that I had, which was like $100 or $200 hidden somewhere, it was, if I could have gotten that money and gotten that stuff, then it would have been so much better because he wouldn't have had all of that to be able to keep track of me. But then also, it ended up messing me up for the next year, the next school year. I wasn't able to register for school because when all this happened, it was like shortly before school whenever he had took all my documents and stuff. And so now, in order for me to be able to register for school, I have to go and get all those documents again. And my adoption papers were in another state. Then my birth certificate and stuff was in that state, but my adoption papers were in another state. So I would have had to go through a whole bunch to get my adoption papers from the other state. And I didn't have time to do all that. And so I was not able to register for school the next year. And it just kind of set me back even more. So anyway, I got away, I guess, and like I said, after the 9 months, it goes into a whole nother story. It was with somebody else, and just a whole bunch of other stuff happened. But what I wanted to say was that, you know, I told the details, like I said, because, you know, I wanted to paint the picture of like how this situation really was. And I think that if, you know, people that are could possibly be in this situation or heading in this situation, it could have been stopped earlier had I known earlier. Um, and had I not continued to fall into the trap. What I want to say is that, like, a lot of times we feel like we don't have a choice. We feel like, oh, my back is against the wall. I don't have anybody, like nobody cares about me. You might not have family that loves you. You might not have people that are there or supportive, or they just might not have it to be able to help you. Um, and, sometimes we're rebellious. We want to go out on our own. I think I can handle it on my own. I'll figure out my own way. And you don't have to deal with this type of situation. Thank God that I'm still here today, because I can't explain how serious this situation was. There are people who have gotten killed. There are people who have gotten, you know, all kinds of things have happened, burned with acid, and just all kinds of different things that have happened from someone who, you know, they were in a relationship, abusive relationship with. And I know that it's not always easy when you're in it to be able to leave. That's why it took me so long before I was able to leave. But I want to let people know, like, the details that I told, if you really pay attention to that, if you don't fall into that trap early on, you got to stop this situation early on. If you feel like you don't have anywhere to go, I wish I would have been in a better place where I knew of God, but I didn't have a close relationship with Him at the time. And I wish I would have had a closer relationship with God. And God will always provide a ram in the bush. If you don't know about, that story of, Abraham and Isaac, and how, read the story of Abraham and Isaac, okay? But God will always provide a ram in the bush. And when we decide, oh, well, I'm going to depend on this person because I can't do it on my own and I don't think I have anyone else, then we are then making that person our God. We're making that person our idol, because we're saying that God is not capable of providing for us. God is our provider. He's Jehovah Jireh. And so when we decide that, oh, I'm going to go and depend on this man to pay my bills, or to take care of me, or to give me money, or to just be there for companionship, or whatever the case is, then these are some of the type of situations that we can get into from deciding to make someone, and even a woman, like, you can, men can make women their God or their idol or whatnot. And so I just want to encourage people, like, look at the signs ahead of time of, like, you don't have to go down that road. Like I said, it could have been way worse. Thank God my vision was restored. Like I said, I have better than 2020. I have 2010 vision, and I've always had 2010 vision. But at the time, of course, I didn't have it for a while, and I had to take the steroid, and it took a long time. My eye used to jump. I used to have a, a huge, like, dent here, and, like, right now, like how I'm looking tired and stuff, it gets a little bit more, like, where you can see it gets a little bit more baggy and stuff like that. My eye used to twitch and used to jump for many years after this happened. My vision was impaired for a while after this happened. Thank God that it's restored now. But like I said, even now to this day, this happened in 2008. It is now 2025, and my eye still kind of has, like, some twitching or some jerking that happens occasionally. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it was. And think about, I could have actually lost my eye. I could have actually lost my life. I could have actually, you know, um, it just could have been so much worse. And I thank God for watching out for me during that time, even when I was continuing to go further and further into this situation, thinking that I had no choice. You always have a choice. Like I said, God will always provide a ram in the bush. And He's done it so many times for me after this that, I'm going to end up telling more of those testimonies and more of those stories about how God has delivered me. Like this was just one little portion of the things that I have went through. I have went through so much stuff, and this wasn't even the worst thing. You know, as bad as it sounded, it wasn't the worst thing. And I just want people to know that, like, you know, get out early if you can. You know what I'm saying? Don't allow yourself to continue to stay in a relationship where someone is being abusive to you, whether it's physically, mentally, verbally, emotionally, all of that stuff. If they're narcissistic, there is someone who I follow, Tiffany Buckner, and she has a something that she always says. The gift for idolatry is the narcissist, and when we are putting someone before God, that is idolatry. Me choosing to follow Him and think that He's the one who provides for me and I can't do it on my own, that's idolatry. And I know, like, I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to beat anyone down or make you feel bad that you may have made this decision. You see what I did. But I want you to understand that God is omnipotent, and he cares, and even though it may not be the way that you think that He's going to come through, He will come through. And as I said, I'll share more stories and stuff and tell of how God has delivered me. God really covered me in this situation, because even when she was saying, like, He let you go, and there was somebody else who I met too and was like, you were with Him and He let you go. um, it was some people that it was a girl who disappeared, who, when I was with him, that he it was a phone call that he had, and this girl ended up disappearing, and people were looking for her, and I think she was doing something with some money or something that he had, or maybe I don't know if he was selling drugs. I don't know what he was doing. He was doing a lot of different things, but she disappeared. And I don't remember anybody ever hearing from her again. I just remember her family looking for her and people looking for her. And so, you don't want it to get to that point. You don't want it to get to where the person is, controlling you and really locking you in the house, or really, he wasn't necessarily locking us in the house. Oh, and then I forgot to say there was one other time when he did abuse me, and that physically, and he had this huge key ring with he had all the, how you used to put the little things from McDonald's, and all those little, like, people used to make those, what's them, geckos and all that stuff with the key rings. He had a key ring, and had so many key rings on it that it was about this big. And one time I was trying to explain something, and long story short, he went out of the house as if he was leaving, because he was like, shut up, you're lying, whatever. He always telling me I'm lying. So he went out the house, but he stood outside the door and he listened. And I tried to tell his baby mama, I said, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to say it the right way. And do you understand what I'm saying? And so he came back in and he was like, when I tell you to be quiet, you be quiet. And so I was just like, I'm just trying to explain it. You don't understand. And so he took this big old key ring, and I kid you not, it had like probably 30 or 40 keychains on it. It was like this big, and he threw it and busted my mouth. And I even still have a little cut right here, where it cut me right here, and it busted my lip, busted my mouth, and all of that stuff. And thankfully it didn't break out my teeth. Like, it's so much stuff that could have happened, and there's just so much that to unwrap with this. And I know it's already long, so I don't want to go into like all of that, but there are options. And then if you even know anyone who, if you're starting to see these symptoms or see these signs, there was also where my family, they ended up coming. I still was in contact, with my family. One of my family members came over and kind of drove over maybe a block away from the house. And I went to go meet her in the daytime one time, and I had a cut all up my arm, and it might have been when he threw the keychain. My lip was all busted and all of this was all, and I had a cut on my arm and I had bruises and stuff on me. And, I'm standing out there and I'm just talking to her and stuff. And she knew that something was wrong. But, it was like, I'm so far in right now. And I just kind of was just like, oh, yeah, I'm good. Oh, I just scratched myself on blase blah, just sitting up here lying and covering for him. And the situation could have it did progressively get worse, and it could have been so much worse than what it was. So I just want to, really tell you, like, if you see signs of people who are, it gets to the point, because he wouldn't allow me to go over there. And so I snuck to go out to the corner to go and meet her. If you see that, like, the person is starting to, where they can't really talk, or they can't come around their family, or just different things like that. Like, I know it's hard. It's very hard, because it's like when the person that's in it is like, you there a lot of times there's fear, a lot of times there's, fear for your life, or just fear of what they'll do to you if you do try to leave. There's fear of, like, I don't have anywhere to go, and just different things like that that can come up. So a lot of times the person is not going to listen to you. But I definitely say, pray for them if you know how to pray or whatnot. Pray for them, and then also try to let them know that you're still there. Even though, because there was a lot of, even my family and my cousins and my friends and stuff, they were very angry with me, because they were like, why didn't you fight back? You should have fought back. Why are you letting him hit you like that and stuff like that? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I'm not trying to get hurt even worse. I'm not trying to end up in the ICU. And they didn't understand. It was just like, you need to fight back, and and it's like, don't be like that. Be compassionate about it, because a lot of times, um, people go through a lot of trauma in these type of situations. They go through a lot of trauma, and it's a lot of fear, and it's a lot of danger that can be associated with this. And especially if you have children, thank God that I did not end up having children with him, because just like his baby mama who was there, he got her when she was young, when she was 16 or 17, and she didn't have anywhere to go. And he took care of her. He did all this stuff for her, and then he impregnated her, and now she's stuck, because now she has two kids. She has nowhere to go, and he knew that. And so they often prey on people who have nowhere to go, who are young, who come from bad backgrounds, who don't have family and friends to care for them and stuff. And so it's not always so easy for that person to walk away. But just know that, like, um, if you're in that situation, definitely, I would say, go to God. And even if you don't know him, he knows you, pray and ask God. And then also try to figure out um, resources or whatnot in your area, if you can, to where you can be able to get out of the situation. I know it's bigger than just walking away all the time. It can be bigger than that. And I'm not telling anybody to just leave, because, I don't want anybody to be in danger. I don't want anybody to lose their life from trying to leave. I don't want anybody to get beat even worse from trying to leave. But I'm praying for a lot of people, even though I don't know you. I've been praying over the years, just for people who are in these type of situations, in sex trafficking, in different things like this. And, I just hope that you can be able to break free, and just know that, like, it does not matter how bad the situation is. You have another choice. Even think about it. If you have to go to, like, a homeless shelter, or if you have to move and leave town and go move somewhere totally different and get away from this and get in the witness protection, whatever. If there's ways that you're able to get away from this type of situation, like, you deserve better. You don't have to tolerate someone beating on you, or someone, verbally accusing you, or raping you, or doing, like, the different things that they're doing. You don't have to tolerate that. I mean, well, most people don't, unless they have you, locked up or whatever. But I honestly just I still will be praying, and I don't even know your name, but God does, and God knows, where you are, and just know that He can bring you out. You can overcome. And right now, today, I am, this is years later, and I still have trauma from this. That's why I didn't want to go back through and relive it in my mind and then go back and say it on video. I wanted to just come on here and just say it because I didn't want to relive that trauma and then relive it again on video. You know, whatever you see is like, I still deal with, like, I still get nervous for years and years. I got nervous. Like, I felt like someone was watching me. Even when I moved away a few years later. I stayed there for, yeah, about 2 or 3 more years. And I moved away a few years later. And to this day, I'm like still nervous. Like, is someone watching me? Is he still able? Does he still have my information? Is he still looking me up? Has he typed in my name on social media? Is he following me or watching me on social media? It's just different things like that where, you don't want to put yourself through trauma where it can show up in your children, it can show up in your marriage, it can show up in just different areas of your life. And just, I really just encourage people from the beginning, if you are close to a situation like this where you feel like you don't have anywhere to go, and there's a guy that approaches you and he's, offering you all of these things, he's taking you out and all that. A lot of times, especially if they're older, and they can be your age, they can be younger than you too. But especially if they're older, it's like, you think, oh, he likes me, this guy loves me, like he wants to take care of me. And a lot of times we have to be vigilant because the enemy has already set those traps, and all he's doing is waiting for us to fall into it. And when you fall into it, it is so hard to get out of a pit once you're in it. But if you can stop before you get in it, then I'm telling you, it is going to change your life tremendously. And so I just encourage people, like, if you're, especially younger people or even people my age now or just even older people, a lot of us have dealt with a lot of trauma. And sometimes you feel like you're not good enough. Sometimes you feel like nobody loves you. Sometimes you feel like nobody cares. But I'm here to tell you that God cares. And when I say, people say that and it sounds cliche, but it's so true. He knows where you are. He hears you. If you, go to him and you pray to him, accept him into your heart. If you haven't accepted him into your heart, and say the prayer of salvation or whatnot, you can look that up on your phone. And he can deliver you from the situation the same way he has delivered me. This is, even within the next few years after that, it didn't take it, maybe it took about another year or two. But I was able to get a apartment. I ended up moving in with some female roommates. I ended up um, going off to the school in a different area. I went to Job Corps. I stayed there for a few months. You can look into something like that, maybe, depending on your age and all that stuff too. Job Corps provides room and board, and you can also get a certification or a technical certification while you're there if you feel like you don't have anywhere to go right now and you're out on the street or something like that. But they only accept up to a certain age, and then some of them you will have to move to wherever that particular Job Corps is and actually stay on campus there. So, look into things like that as options if you feel like you don't have anywhere to go, if you're staying out on the street. And then also, yeah, I was able to get an apartment. I was able to go to Job Corps. I moved away, went from Wisconsin to Kentucky, and then I went to Job Corps. And then within that next year, I decided to get back into church, and I started just um, going and attending church and watching church and things like that. And I was able to kind of build community. I was able to get my own place. I was able to get my own car. I was able to basically turn my whole life around from where I was out on the streets and living with this guy to becoming, self sufficient, and God providing those things for me. He provided a roof over my head. He provided food where I had food stamps. I was able to get food. He provided, I had a job and I was able to keep a job, even though it was at Walmart. I worked at Walmart for 4.5 years, but it was something, and it provided me money. And don't give up. Like, if you're trying to apply for a job, or if you're trying to, apply, just don't give up. Just keep going and really lean in and just let the Lord know, like, Lord, I need you to meet me where I'm at. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Please meet me where I'm at and help me, deliver me from this, if you really don't want to be in that situation anymore. And just know that you are loved. God loves you. He cares about you. He created you, and you deserve to be treated well. And you can get out of the situation before it gets that bad. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I do have other videos that like I said, I'm going to share other things that God has delivered me from, because, like I said, that's just a little piece. And as I get into that, I'll share more of like my testimony and my story of like how God has really saved me from a lot of different stuff, and He can do the same for you. Right now, I'm gonna go ahead and get ready for bed because I only got a few hours before I have to get up and go to work. Have a couple flights to work tomorrow, three flights, I think. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Um, I will try to link maybe the domestic violence hotline, and I hope and pray that this has helped someone. And I hope and pray that it helps someone to see the signs early on and not continue in this and get trapped in this situation, because, we don't want to see people get hurt and get killed and just different things like that. It's you have another choice. You have options, okay? So, thanks so much for tuning in. And I wish you the best. I'm definitely praying, even though I don't know your name. I'm praying, but if you want to put your name underneath in the comments or whatnot, and yeah, hopefully I'll be back within a few days to tell about another part of my crazy um life. But now I'm in such a better place. I am, God has really delivered me and changed my life. And you know, yeah, so I'm just grateful, and I just wanted to share that. And I hope that it helps someone. And let me know in the comments. And thanks so much for tuning in. Bye, loves.